In this world, not all people live in 21st century. Some countries are 500 years behind because of poverty, or third world countries that stayed out of the world for 200 years. But you won't find a country that's 1000 years behind the world. There are always exceptions, of course. We said you can't find a country 1000 years behind the world. But we never said you wouldn't find an island whose people are 60,000 years behind civilization. Yes, you heard correctly. 60,000 years. It is enough to go to the Bay of Bengal. One of the scariest areas of the earth is called North Sentinel Island. That's exactly where it is. Of course, there are no scary creatures living on this island. No poisonous snakes, sharks and crocodiles. The only things that makes this place special is the indigenous people of the island, who do dangerous things to sustain themselves. This is the most mysterious and forbidden island in the world. A place where its people have not allowed any strangers to enter their island since 60,000 years ago. You may have heard of North Sentinel Island, which lies in the middle of the Indian Ocean. It is about 60 square kilometers wide and no one is allowed to enter it. No tourists can travel to the island, nor can the people of the island leave it. Even scientists and researchers aren't allowed in. There are about 400 people living in this small area of the planet. Presumably, the native people here aren't literate to read and write. They don't know what a book is, nor do they have any comforts. Of course, no one really knows what is going on there, and it is only possible to observe their behavior from a very distance, and it is difficult to observe their behavior. You might say that in these modern times you can see them with satellite imagery, but don't forget that there are heaps of forests here that limit the view of the island. You can just watch the beach. There may be anything inside these forests. There's little information about the people who live on the island. These people are called Sentinelese. It's their vernacular name. For about 60 years, the Sentinel people have lived in almost complete isolation and are living in the most primitive state possible, according to the scientists. All this time, they have been completely independent of the world and developed it individually. Whatever technology these have on hand is their own and hasn't been ported there from somewhere else. They don't know a lot of simple things. They don't even know what a horse is. However, some researchers have managed to get a closer look at these natives. For example, we know that the people who live here are about 165 centimeters tall, and since the race of these people didn't mix with other people from all over the planet and they have always been alone, the color of their skin and teeth and muscles and height and other features are similar. These people are generally hunters and haven't changed their hunting habits in the last few thousand years. For example, they use bows and spears to hunt animals and fish seafood such as lobster and shellfish by hand. Most of their food is also seafood. Since the very era in which this civilization was formed, it has not developed much. For example, these people don't even know agriculture. Of course, they can build primitive boats for themselves. What even more interesting is knowing that the Sentinel people know what a fire is and whether they have seen it at all. As far as we know, and according to 2020 statistics, no one knows if these people have the ability to build fires because there is no evidence of that. The other thing is that these people speak an unknown language that only they themselves understand. This unique island has its own unique civilization. Scientists are willing to do anything to be able to study the people of this tribe closely so that maybe they can learn their language, but it is forbidden to do so. Not only do the people of the island not allow any strangers to enter their island, but the Indian government, which officially owns the island for some reason, doesn't allow anyone to enter the island. Indians do not want these remote people to become extinct in association with civilized people. This is the main reason for the isolation of this tribe. These people have lived for thousands of years without contact with the outside world, and their bodies have no ability to resist the mutated disease and viruses that exist in our modern world today. The slightest illness can kill them, because in a society that is growing in its most primitive form, the diseases we are dealing with can easily spread there and wipe out everyone. So these people are too easily in danger of being killed. In the 19th century, a British officer named Maurice Vidal Portman decided to conduct a study on the inhabitants of the island. Of course, his gentleman's studies were not very human either, because he kidnapped 6 of the natives of the island, 2 adults and 4 children. He took these 6 to the nearest large town around Sentinel Island. All of the 6 people who were abducted soon fell ill. The 2 adults between them died very soon. Maurice Portman was also scared and brought the remaining 4 children back to the island. Fortunately, despite such actions, the people of this tribe still survived. The island is protected so that disease do not reach here from other areas of the planet. Indian border guard boats periodically patrol the coastal waters so that no one comes near here. You are allowed to finally reach 9 kilometers from the coast of the island, and closer than this distance is forbidden. Island residents aren't that interested in connecting with people of the island either. Anyone who approaches them faces an aggressive response from these people. Of course, what I mean by aggressive reaction is that they are willing to kill that foreign person in any way so that it doesn't get near them. In 2004, after an earthquake struck the Indian Ocean, the Indian government sent a helicopter to the island. As a result of this earthquake, around 200,000 people were killed throughout the Indian territories. The Indian government also thought the Sentinel Island people were probably dead or something had happened to them. But all the natives of the island were alive. This is a mystery because no one knows how these people protected themselves in this disaster or how they managed to preserve their resources and survive. Finally, when that helicopter from India came near the island, the Sentinel people threw rocks and spears at the helicopter and were not allowed to approach the helicopter at all. Researchers believe that the animosity that the North Sentinel people have towards civilized people is due to a culture that is embedded in their society. It means that generations have passed, and the children of each generation have seen that their parents do not allow anyone to enter the island. It has become a kind of culture, and the non-indigenous people are viewed as the enemy. Curiosity of non-indigenous peoples persisted until January 27, 2006. A few years ago, a group of Indian fishermen tried to approach the island illegally to catch crab. They ignored Coast Guard warning and approached the shore, but as soon as they got to a few yards of shore, they noticed spears being thrown at themselves. The people of the island attacked their boat and killed them. None of the fishermen ever returned to India. 3 days later, an Indian Coast Guard helicopter headed for the island to collect the fishermen's bodies, but the island guards attacked the helicopter again with spears and rocks. The resistance was such that the Coast Guard was dissuaded from collecting the bodies and abandoning them on the island. The Coast Guard, of course, says the natives of the island had buried the fishermen. Everything that arrives on this island disappears without a trace. In 2018, a person named John Allen Chow, who was a missionary, headed to the island. He knew it was illegal to go to the island. That's why he ransomed 2 fishermen $30,000 to take him secretly to the island. He wanted to communicate with the natives of the island so that he could promote his religion. But after a few days, people in the area spotted the man's body on the beach. Alan Chow's body remained on the island forever. Today, North Sentinel Island is still one of the most unknown islands on which man lives. Do you think the people of this island will finally decide to communicate with civilized human or not? It was never studied. We can only guess what's going on deep inside the island. But we still don't know what lies hidden in the forest of the island, and we don't know what the future holds for the civilization that has been trapped on this island since 60 years ago.